did you get a chance to work on some of the ideas that we talked about in the previous workshop, in terms of those memories and how those memories can be sometimes so intricate, but the idea is that you find material that is also relevant to you. We're also going to experiment today with some prompts that have nothing to do with any of the ideas that you guys are bringing to the table, just to sort of brainstorm and find other ways of coming up, in other words, with ideas for poetry. And I think that sometimes that is the most difficult thing, and sometimes that is what kind of creates obstacles when we try to think too hard for ideas. Um, One thing that I have to say is that this type of work that we are doing here is very introspective, as poetry itself is. And I think there is quite a big difference between commercial literature and the role it has in society, and the type of work that we do as creative writers who are exploring identity and the personal fabric of your own lives, so there is a big difference from, one state of mind to the other. Now, that doesn't mean that Hallmark uh, poetry is not good. That doesn't mean that there are a lot of pop songs that also fall into, and even genre songs that fall into the realm of poetry, because music is also considered poetry, um, uh, that are uh, easy to the ears and so on and so forth. And that is okay too. There is nothing wrong with that. But we're trying to elevate our experience in whichever uh, sphere of life that happens to be, to we're trying to elevate those ideas to poetry, as a craft, um, and also as an exercise in voice, personal voice in this case, and language as well. You had mentioned, you kept me thinking also after the first workshop, when you were talking about the importance of um, language, right? Which sometimes is something that we just take for granted, because it is what happens when the same tool that you use to communicate ideas is also the same tool that you use to creatively explore those ideas, right? So language has that kind of dichotomy as well, where it used to communicate very mundane things, and at the same time is used aesthetically as a form of embellishment of personal discourse and narratives, right?
Pardon
So,
me, Orlando. I'm
yes,
sorry to
yes.
interrupt you. You have a bit of feedback in your background.
Oh, yeah?
One of your devices are superseding you.
Okay, okay.
All right. Thank you. Sorry
What
to
about
disturb.
now? Good? Is it better?
That's much better. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that
Oh,
was a phone close um to the computer. So yes, absolutely. So those are some distinctions, that I want to, without trying to sound elitist or anything like that, because it's not about that, but it is definitely about the respect for the craft, and I think that um, that's one of the things that I always try to emphasize in that sense, because this is also a very lonely work, and we only have these opportunities to when we have workshops to sort of like check in with one another and see what it is that we are doing and in what is that we are looking for, what are we exploring, right? As artisans of words, right? So I have a few prompts here. Let me see if I can let me see where I'm gonna go with this. I have some prompts that I would like you to explore, to keep the hand moving, to keep the mind flowing, and then we can kind of like go and revisit some of the ideas that you brought today, and we can go then, deeper, a little more into the fabric of what we are trying to do here. Let me see if I can share today this screen. I might be able to. Let me see. Okay. Um, uh, I'm getting the message that the host disabled the participant screen. Um, I'm trying to see if I could share a screen that I have here with prompts.
Working on it.
Okay. If not, you know what? I can also copy this to the chat. Let's try with that first. Okay.
You should be able to share now.
Okay.
Also, there's still that feedback, Orlando. It's one of your devices are on.
Really?
That's
Let me see. Hold on for a second. I don't know. Is it better now? Still, you hear feedback?
no, that's much better. Yes.
Much better? Okay. You know what it is? I'm in the mountains and we have a lot of dehumidifiers we have to have because the level of humidity is so high and the temperature have been, we have been in the 8 degrees, 7 degrees last night. So, okay, so let me try now sharing. Let's this is something that I might have to resolve. Okay, here. Give me 1 second. Okay, no, because this is going to interfere. It's telling me with the, this is something that I have to resolve at a later time. My apologies for this. I'm not going to be able to, for some reason, I can't share this screen here. However, what I want to do is I will write some of these prompts so we can work on them in the chat. And somebody's saying that it's very cold there in Indiana. I know. All right. So let's start with this one here. Growing older. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. I'm putting some prompts right here in the write a poem about in the chat. Okay, so you have oh boy, 5 below, they said. I do like the cold though. I have to say, I actually like it. Okay, we got some ideas there. Actually, write a poem about the cold that can be, they don't have to be very elaborate poems, just to keep the hand moving. But that could be an idea. Write a poem about winter, just as a kind of icebreaker, right? I have other ideas here. Write a poem about nighttime. Short, just play with it, keep the hand moving. You have a few here, 4 or 5 lines each, whatever you want to do. It's just to keep your hand moving, flowing. Write a poem about nighttime. Write a poem, a short poem, I would say, um, about a particular color. Write a poem about being underwater. Write a poem about a person whose life you're curious about. Write a poem about your mother's perfume. Write a poem about falling asleep or waking up. And write a poem about growing older. Okay. Anybody wants to check in? Any would like to share?
I'm in the process of writing a bunch of poems for a contest.
All right.
So I took this opportunity to get started on one.
There you go. Exactly. Yes, absolutely. Would you like to share it or?
Um, well, the theme is perfect storm for the contest, this category. Um, so this is kind of rambling, but it's also about aging.
Okay.
It says, I'm in the midst of a raging storm. Is it perfect? Perhaps. When I was younger, I would have said my 30s were a storm. They passed like lightning in a beer bottle at a campfire. Now, at this age, I can't quantify with numbers. It doesn't matter. The storm has taken control and embroiled me in every way. That's as far as I got.
Okay. Okay.
It needs work.
It's very good. It's a start. You did a lot more than I did. I mean, it's hard sometimes to work on prompts, especially when they are very specific. But I think that that's one of the beauties of poetry because it's never really about the prompt. It's where the prompt takes you.
Mhm.
And that's the idea that, you're not here to fulfill a creative writing class for a credit that I'm going to give you based on the fulfillment of, that particular prompt. The idea is to get you to write about something that you care about, and if a prompt does it, perfect. And if it is something else, I welcome it, you
Mhm.
know? So that's sort of like the idea that I would like you to keep in mind for this type of process here, because that's what's going to happen. Let's say that you want to send to a contest, or there is a theme, there is a prompt that is given to you beforehand for most of them, or for some of them at least, right? So it's sort of like it's a training, it's part of the training. You're just playing with ideas, Then later on, when you get home, I mean, you're home already, but later on, after you wake up in the morning, maybe those ideas have awakened some kind of ghost that is lingering, right? In the corners of the memory, of your memories, of your, of your life. So that's the idea with prompts. I put a bunch in here. I shared those with you. I have more. I can share prompts with you. I can send you more prompts. Just for the sake of keeping you working, because sometimes those prompts will awaken something that will make you tick, and that's the idea. So. Does anybody else would like to share? Yeah, please, Melissa.
There we go. You want me to share with you what I just wrote today on your prompt or the homework from last week?
You can share why don't we do this? Let's share what you just wrote, and then we go and we share some of the homework. We'll do
Okay.
the homework after.
Okay.
Yes?
So, I started writing about winter because you started there, so I figured we'd start there.
All right.
Um, I detest the chill, the ache in my bones, my back, my bruised emotional state. My skin tingles as the flakes fall, as fear creeps in like the black ice forms on pavement. I hide covered head to toe in layers of cotton and down.
I love it. You don't like winter.
No, sir, I don't.
That's
I
very
moved
cute.
away from the north.
Okay, I have moved to the north, where life takes us, right? I mean, that's the beauty of our journeys, right? Um, I like it. There is something there that has to do with that sort of playfulness of your language, and I like that. I think that maybe if you were to continue to work on that poem a little deeper, that's something that maybe you want to keep in mind. Poems don't have to be serious. This is almost there is a cadence and a sort of rhythmic interior rhythm there that gives you that playfulness, right? So I would go for kind of like for that. Keep on, working with that. Absolutely. Anybody else? Amanda, yes?
Okay, I chose the prompt, a person whose life I'm curious about, because I just found out that Rasputin, the famous
Yes.
Russian, his daughter actually, Mona, I'm also in Indiana, and his daughter ended up in Indiana. And I've been interested in father-daughter relationships, so I thought I'd write about her. Her name is Maria, but I can't remember her whole name. Daughter of the mad monk, dancing her way through my cornfields, chasing the burned circus. Sweet Lady Rasputin, circling a ring, outshined by a too famous father. her smile glowing, the opposite of his dark eyes. That's all I have right now.
It's very good. Absolutely. It deserves. I love the personality of Rasputin. I don't have to, well, I'm Cuban. I grew up in Russia. I spent there most of my childhood and early teenage years, going only back to Cuba, every 2 years, every 3 years. My father was working in the diplomatic service for the Cuban government. So I got to like a lot of the old Russian culture, and so I get it. It's dark and nuanced, like Rasputin himself. So I like that. I like the contrast that you mentioned there between his dark eyes and what was hers. That line, the last line of the poem, right? Was it?
Let's see. Outshine by two pins, but her smile's so glowing. All the pictures of her, she's just radiant.
Right,
But
right.
she's like stuck in his mythology, so she can't ever be a performer without having, they not abused it, but they really made, she was a dancer and also a circus performer, and she was talented in her own right, but they always made her she was always in the shadow of her father's reputation.
I would like to hear her voice in the poem. That's a prompt that I will give you to sort of to blow some life into the character that you're talking about, or like one of the characters that you're talking about. And I think especially for I think in any type of poetry, but especially for narrative poetry, which what you're doing is closer to that genre of poetry where you tell a story. A lot of narrative poems are also biographical, not autobiographical necessarily. So it does give you a chance to step out of your head and look at the world from somebody else's point of view too. So you can play with those voices, the voice of the poet, and then maybe something coming from those characters themselves. Think about it, Yeah. Um, all right. This is all. Okay. So there are. I don't necessarily want to call anybody to share, but if you want to, please raise your hand, and I'm open to it. Yes. Yes, Tim.
Hi. So I picked the growing older front. Most of the couple of poems I worked on for this workshop, the one for the homework this week and this one, are very topical. I've been having some kind of weird physical stuff going on in recent weeks. So my extremities, fingers, feet, hands are tingling, buzzing, but not in a good way. I'm not a tingle with love and attraction. I'm not feeling a good buzz from wine or whiskey. It's ever present and annoying and spreading to my nose, cheeks, and tongue. It's my nerves short-circuiting or maybe fraying, tangling, or maybe unraveling. It's the aging process, Peggy says, her own extremities likewise tingling, her hands sometimes trembling. It scares me. Will it get worse? Will it kill me eventually? I should take heart, I suppose. Tingling, even numbness, is feeling something. And when you're not feeling, you're, well, dead.
I like it. I like it very much. There is a lot in it. And definitely I can relate to to a lot of things. I used to do triathlon, and I go to my sport medicine doctor and he tells me, look, You might need in a few years a knee replacement. Your meniscus are not doing too well now. And I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? And he says, just keep it moving until it's time to do one of those, right? So I like that, that it has that physicality to it. And it's a way also of getting in the reader's mind, because it's also something that we can all relate to, you know. So I really like very much what you're doing there. I think it brings me also to the topic, one of the topics here, which has to do with aging as well. Even though pain and aches have nothing to do with that, you know, when you're physical, but it can also be an idea that you could develop or not, you know, in the poem. So it's interesting. I like the rhythm that you got there. Um, absolutely. You know, try also when after you continue to work, this is for everybody, on a piece, don't think that that piece is it. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes there are poems that it's like, I mean, they write themselves, if I were to describe it in some kind of way, you know? I have maybe days, not a lot of them, but in which I'm able to craft something and it feels almost as if you know, as if it had been dictated somehow, right? I mean, which is another path also that poetry has, which sometimes is obscure, if you wish, because it's very personal. But poetry is also it has that degree of transcendence and spirituality, you know, attached to it as well, and that can come from very unexpected places as well. So, you know, keep open to the ideas that will continue to flow from those prompts, from those memories that you were working on as well. Why don't we read some of those, some of the homework that you guys did, see where you went with it. I was a little distracted by the chat here, but we're going to try to integrate this into the work. Of course, people were talking about the cold and how cold it is, and absolutely. Therefore, the prompt, definitely write a poem about the cold. I'm interested in seeing what is your personal relationship with the cold, right? And who is this? Mona said that I have looked at older poems and edited them recently. So that's very cool. If you would like to share something next Slack or later on, whatever you want to do. Are you ready to share something from last week, from the homework? Yes? Yes? Okay. Melissa, want to be first?
Alrighty. Well, I was playing with a bunch of things. You had us, write down a bunch of ideas, and something that stuck with me is just currently a struggle I'm having, which is weight, due to illness and things and my body not responding. And so it just kind of stuck in my head. So I wrote two poems. One was a haiku and one is just a regular poem. So The first one is weight sheds by the ounce, dropping like the autumn leaves, promising rebirth.
Mm.
And the other, weight of youth, is opinionated, obstinate, and emotional, plucky pounds built of pleasure and gluttony. Seasoned weight is abusive and foul as it ravages the body, causing malfunctions of cancerous proportions, carelessly eating away at the foundation built by years of good intention, bite by bite.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Do you want any reactions? Any reactions? Yes?
Sure.
Okay. Anybody wants to say something about the poems? About
I'd
Melissa's
like to hear.
poems?
Sorry, I'd like to hear the first poem again. It was a little short and went by
Absolutely.
quickly.
Yes.
The haiku,
Yes.
weight sheds by the ounce, dropping like the autumn leaves, promising rebirth.
3 lines. You have 3 lines.
575.
575.
Yep.
So you're going for the classic American haiku.
Yes.
Very good. Very
Thanks.
good. That's exactly what a haiku is. That's a very good example of a haiku that you want to decipher something that is given to you, right? There is always a cipher in there, and something is revealed then, and it has that sort of philosophical weight to it. In its simplicity, that's what Zen does, right? So I am enamored, of that art form. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're
I
very
like
welcome.
I like the comparison between, the ounces of weight and leaves, and how we sort of reemerge, right, as someone new once, this process of shedding has ended. That's what I thought was very.
I like that very much, what you just pointed out. One of the advantages of doing this, where we are writing and we share, and then more than feedback, because we are really starting with these ideas, to play with these ideas. So a lot of stuff is not even clear to us as writers, and that's desirable, that you are not aware until you get to another point, when then you need to be maybe more aware, when you start, doing auto editing, rewriting, and so on and so forth. But one of the things here, especially, I think in general, with any form of creative writing, is that when someone notices something, if you are writing poetry, for instance, you can make that, if it is to your liking, the feedback that somebody's giving you, like in this case, Tim was talking about the relationship of one element with the other. What was it? The weight, right? And then the ounces of, was it? Ounces of weight was the phrase? And the relationship to leaves. And that adds that sense also of physicality to the poem that makes it also very tangible. And we tend to relate more to things that feel tangible, closer to us somehow, because as human beings, we are very tactile. We say, oh, let me see, but in reality, what we want to do is touch. So it sort of creates that kind of vibration, in the poem. So what I would do is, maybe I would try to maybe add that as a visual element of the poem. Maybe I will have the line. This is not, if it is not a haiku, if it is the haiku, then you're working with that form. You're not supposed to be breaking any lines, but if you're working then in a sort of the blank poem or free verse, you have a lot of freedom and you can play around with how your line is going to hang, or whether there is going to be a word that maybe is the word that you want to emphasize there. And sometimes you can make those decisions by listening to the impressions that your peers give you. So we also learn how to listen as poets in this sense, right? And incorporate some of those observations into the body of the poem. If it's to your liking, at the end, you have the last word, of course, as a poet. I'm looking for more. Anybody wants to share more? Tim, I know that you had something you said from last class. If you would like to, and Amanda, you too, you have some work. Okay.
Amanda, you go first.
You go first, Amanda. Absolutely. We're gentlemen here, Amanda.
Thank you. It's messy because I didn't type it. I took the prompt last week of a memory, and the memory that I had was the last time my father recognized me.
Oh.
So I haven't titled the poem, but it'll get there. Tuesday, always Tuesday now. Roast beef evenings. I remind him, he says, of the girl who was here yesterday. Meddling bitches, both of us. Just like Rhonda, who stole his cap gun, he tells me. Again. You were here Friday, I remember. He doesn't know my face. Flinches from hands that once held his. Pokes the sausage fat finger I once gripped crossing streets. His hands too big for my toddler paws. Too frail now for others to find a vein. I search his eyes for a Thursday. The last day he knew the name he'd given me on that Sunday in 1970. Spoken aloud. I need 2 glasses.
No problem. Take your time. Take your
I
time.
can't. Spoken.
It's okay.
Spoken aloud. No, I don't know. He shakes his head. Who's that? Just another meddling bitch like me, cheating him of his meds, robbing him of his last days, as though I were a broken clock, accelerating the minutes. Instead of a daughter, okay. Instead of a forgotten daughter, turning back pages for a Thursday. Okay. Sorry about the pauses.
No. You don't need please. No, it's wonderful. We are sharing works in progress here. It's a very beautiful in its sadness. It's a very heartfelt. Yes, Mona, would you like to say something? Yes.
I like the way you used the days of the week, the Tuesday and the Thursday and the day you were born, the Sunday. And then I like the way you wove those days in and used them to make the connection in the poem. I like that very much. And I hope when you make your edits, you don't lose that. And you even could emphasize that more, give those days more power.
Very good.
Thank you.
Feedback. Yes, absolutely. So, yes. Amy says that Amanda got something, yes, solid, right? It is definitely a piece that starts to feel, right, that it's already becoming that poem. That is a very strong poem. And oh boy, this is something that we can all relate to. I mean, there is something to be said when we work with this sort of taboo themes, which now are more spoken about. We can all relate. We all have a family member who has dementia or is on its way. But how do we make that into a poem or create something interesting with it that surprises us? is the work you're doing here, Amanda, and it's already starting to feel that way. I almost feel it like a cascading effect. I feel it like a wave there, like almost rolling ideas. It has that sort of fluid um, uh, texture, if you wish. You know, I mean, texture is not the word I'm looking for. It is texture too. There are different things going on there. Your reactions, the impressions that you're getting from it, then the hands. It's almost like I'm seeing that is becoming alive in front of me, right? The complexity of the topic. So I definitely would encourage you to continue to work in that as well. And explore in terms of poetry, almost, you know, what you are doing is what it feels like. Um, uh, so absolutely very moving. Yeah. It's hard to work on these topics. I find it, but it's also very rewarding because you are able to, it's almost turning the ugly into something beautiful. And I think there is some sort of transcendence that happens when we are capable of articulating that, and you have done that. So please keep working, and bring more. You know, to the next class. Continue to work on this continue to work on the topics that are important to you, that are coming to you, that are coming through your own process, whether it is regurgitating memories or through prompts. It doesn't matter, you know, whatever can trigger that. But whatever it is, make it something that is really personal, and that ultimately you are the only one who can really tell that story or write that poem. Okay, that's the whole idea with this work, that you continue to dig deeper and that you find those topics that really resonate with you, and then you don't have anything to fear. You know, there no judgment can be made against your work. That's what I always say. You know, that's your defense as a poet. You're working with your entrails. You know, so. And Tim, you said that you had also something from last week.
Yeah, I had kind of an interesting experience, I don't know, a week and a half or something like that ago. My aunt, who lives in Tacoma, Washington, her husband died about, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so, and clearly she was going through like a bunch of old stuff. She sent me an airmail letter that I had sent her when I was 6 years old in 1968. And you know, it was postmarked 1968, right? And it was a thank you note for a gift she had sent me. And, you know, I have really mixed feelings about the gift. And I sort of started with that memory in the free writing last week. And then this is kind of what I came up with. Let me try and get to, there we go. It's called Model Ship. When I was 6 months old, my father and in-laws exchanged broadsides in some now forgotten controversy when diplomacy had failed. My mother raised a white flag, ally to both, ally to neither, imprisoned in my father's hold when she starved in silence. When I was 6 years old, my aunt, a Lutheran deaconess and missionary to Japan, sent me a gift, a ship model wrapped in crinkly, tissuey brown paper that smelled perfumey, excuse me, and unfamiliar. My father helped me build the ship model. He did all the work. Of junk, complete with wooden hull and cloth sails strung with elaborate rigging. Displayed with honor on my dresser in my bedroom, it began to gnaw at my father. He already carried from boyhood memories of Japanese perfidy during the war, Pearl Harbor, Bataan. Now he was reminded of my aunt's perceived perfidy. My father made me give away the model ship, donation under duress to my grade school. To this day, I ask his shade why and never receive a good answer. Except he was a Navy man, Korean War, a machinist mate first class, but I imagine him more as a chief petty officer. We're to honor our veterans, they say, even the pettiest. It was her sister, her blood, yet my mother raised the white flag. Allied to both, allied to neither, imprisoned in my father's hold, where she starved in silence.
All right. Impressions? I love it's definitely a narrative poem, which they're still lingering with me, these narrative poems. My last book was mostly all narrative poems. And they're fun to work with, narrative poems, because you have more room. It's like a short story. That's really what you're doing. You're telling a short story in broken lines, right? That's the best definition for what a narrative poem is. And that gives you a lot of room to work with. The only thing, look at this, I think is almost there, your poem. The only thing that gave me like, oh, I want to smell the perfume scent. Describe it to me. Give me something. Don't tell me it's perfumey. Perfume is too general. I wanna sense it. I wanna feel it. And these are also things that we do sometimes, right? When especially in narrative poetry, because it's a tendency that we have because of that omniscient narrator that we carry from prose. So there is that. Oh, and then there was this whatever situation, but you have already shown me so much that you cannot just keep me hanging there telling me that it's a perfume smell. I want to smell it. So it's a good opportunity to also add sensorial elements to your poem. It really makes your poetry stand out when, instead of describing, right, what they say sometimes in prose, show me, don't tell me. So this is a good way of showing something in a poem. It's just a suggestion, and if you don't do it, it's okay the way it is too. There is nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying that it could give your poem like another layer, the senses. Now you took me, that lemony smell, or that, whatever smell it is, so I like it. It's very good. It's very enticing. I want more. I want to hear. I want the whole story. It's beautiful. It's really almost there. I would be curious to see how you're breaking lines and stuff like that. But that's work for later. Like I was saying, it's something. So you find the structure that, instead of dictating, we can do both in poetry. Sometimes we dictate structures. When I like the sonnet. So it's oh wow.
Anyway, yeah, that was sort of what it looked like. I always like lines that are sort of similar in ending, length, but yeah, that's what it sort of was looking.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. So that you discovered, the idea also is that when you're doing this type of work too, that you can discover, especially you have a lot more freedom when you're, working with narrative poems and so on and so forth. And I'm not sure that's really true, but definitely narrative poetry gives you, that sort of complete freedom to break lines in the way that you think is more effective to uh, to the theme of your poem, to the story that you're telling, right? So that's something that when you continue to work on the poem and you go back to it, you're gonna get a feeling for it. It takes a lot of rewriting, in my opinion, to kind of, and then a lot of reading, so you can start feeling the kind of internal rhythm of the poem. This has a very good internal rhythm too. This just falls in that. The element of the Japanese culture, was it Japanese? Yes, that's that definitely stayed with me there. I like that. Maybe that's something also to um to bring more, out. A suggestion. It's very, very, very good. I love the letter by mail. the, the airmail letter. Yes. Those little, details, the little things become really very important. I mean, who would think, right, that a letter has that? It's almost nostalgic. A letter. I'm like, a letter. It's nostalgic. We don't write letters anymore, or almost never. So it has all of that. And that is in between lines. That's exactly what that idea of in between lines is also all about. Is that, we discover something that is not so obvious, but is there, is latent, is addressed in some kind of way. So that's very good. And we have run out of time. Is that what that means? I see the time. Yes,
I was just trying to make up for the time we lost. So
that's
thank
perfect.
you all for being very patient.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, Before we close, I just wanted to ask, in terms of, are you able now to have access to the Google folder? Were you able to get into the, yes, perfect. I'm going to add more material, for you to look at. I have put together a course over the years on creative writing, but specifically geared towards poetry. And I would like to share some of that material with you. Don't share it with too many people because it's material that I'm working on for a book. But I don't mind. A lot of these I have addressed in one way or another in articles and so on and so forth. But you might find some good ideas there that can aid you in your journey. Yes, Mona, do you have an idea?
Yeah, I've never been to this before, so I don't have anything that you've shared in the past.
All right. So
Forgive me, I could jump in there.
yes.
Mona, I did send a email from Art in the Basin. So if you see artinthebasin@gmail.com, don't freak out me.
Oh, okay. I'll have.
By the way, I'm Amy Joy, or you can call me AJ. I
Art
did
in
send
the
that out
Basin.
to you just a few minutes ago. Like I
Okay.
said, forgive the delay on the materials, and for the people who signed up and got the link a little bit late, forgive me
Okay.
again. I'm glad this is being recorded because you guys have all brought some beautiful pieces.
Oh,
Orlando,
absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll have to check my email then. So does this, yeah, I see it. Does this happen every month or every week or what?
So the workshops have been more on a seasonal basis. So we had one earlier in the fall in September with Diane Ward. She did space triggering. That was great. And it's been happening like spring. I can't remember
Okay.
the other workshops before, but we're projecting that we'll have another one
Okay,
around May.
okay,
So
thank you.
you guys could keep a lookout for that. I don't know if you follow us on any of our social medias, but we are on Facebook, Art
Okay.
in the Basin. We are on Instagram, Art in the Basin. And of course, YouTube. You guys can see your work live once it's happening live now, but you can see it in recording.
It's an
as soon as
Art in the
we-
Basin is an amazing organization, and they are, I think, one of the few that are really, really doing a lot of work to promote the arts through, workshops and readings, and there is always something going on. I feel guilty that I haven't been able to participate as much as I would like to, but in the last 2 years, I have been only in New York maybe once or twice a week. So it's hard because I'm taking care of this small farm to get it started. So and also for my peace of mind, I can't be in New York right now. But definitely when I spend more time there, I want to come more to Art in the Basin. Is a wonderful space for creativity. I highly recommend.
Orlando, we were so blessed to have you last season in 2023, right? That was
Yeah.
like just the other day. I feel like it
The
was a
other
million
day.
years ago, but we had you as a featured reader, and it was a fantastic show, and we welcome you back anytime.
Thank
Anytime.
you.
So
And I'm
grateful.
looking forward to that. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I think that one of the beauties of this is we have the opportunity to meet, for instance, online, even though a lot of these events are actually live events, right, Amy? However, this is the wonderful thing that you can get sometimes into I mean, not sometimes, for the most part, you have recordings of the events you do. And it's a wonderful opportunity to also, to stay connected as well with the uh, poetry world, right? I mean, this is maybe the best thing that this type of platform has, is that ability that you are wherever we are, we can meet and write together. So
I should add too, we do a reading series that occurs every other Tuesday. We have a hybrid open mic, so that you do not have to be present in person in the Bronx to participate. You can go through Zoom and you could read your work if you feel comfortable with that over Zoom. We share it with the rest of the cafe, and it's been a great experience.
consider that an invitation.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, we are there. Anything to close? Anything that you want to say? What I want you to do is to continue to work on. I'm going to include all those prompts too, so that way you have a lot of. There is no justification. Oh, I didn't have any ideas. You'll find some in there, and then of course the memory triggering that we are doing will also provide you with enough material. So please continue to do that and come ready to read some work inspired by your memories or some of these prompts. Looking forward to that. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Stay warm.